So this video is for the 4.10 Day 2 notes. What you're going to do is you're going to write a quadratic model to represent a real-world problem. So today you're going to be doing quadratic regression. And in order to do this, you will need a graphing calculator. Now in Algebra 1, you use the graphing calculator to find linear regression, so the best fitting line. Today, since we're working on quadratics in this unit, you're actually going to find the best fitting quadratic model. We call this a quadratic regression. Okay, so we're going to go through this step by step just to make sure you know how to do this. So let's go to our first problem. Now, if you have any other questions on how to do this, on your notes there is a step-by-step process if you need to look at that. So here it says the table shows the height of a baseball hit, with X representing the time in seconds and Y representing the baseball's height in feet. We have to use a graphing calculator to find the best fitting model for the data. So here they've given us a table, time, which is our X values, is 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then our height is Y, which is 3, 28, 40, 27, 26. So what we need to do first is find our best fitting, in this case, quadratic model for the data. So here, let's go to our graphing calculator. So you should be at the main screen here. Okay, if not, make sure you press second mode to get to this screen. Now the next button you're going to press is what we call the stat button. Okay, it's right here, right next to kind of 2 over from the alpha key, the green one, so stat. So you're going to press that button. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plot our points into lists. So here where it says edit, you just press enter. And if you notice, we have L1 and L2. We call this list 1 and list 2. Now if we go back to our table here, we have time and height. Now the top portion of your table will always be L1. That'll be basically your X values. The second part of your table, which is height in this case, will be your L2, so your list 2. And that should always correspond to your Y values. So going back to our graphing calculator, in the L1, we're going to place 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Now, some of you might have already stuff inside your graphing calculators. If that's so, you can actually clear the stuff out. So I'm going to go a right arrow over, which highlights the 0, and I'm going to click the up button. Now to clear this, I'm going to press the clear button. Okay, so you press clear, and then you just press enter, and it clears the entire list. Do not press the delete button. If you do that, it deletes this entire list, the L1. And when that happens, I do have to reset the calculators. So just press the clear button. So here I already have, if you kind of see on the screen, I have my X. Remember, that's our L1. And what we're going to do is plug all these values into our graphing calculator. So you press 0, and then to enter that in, you just press enter. Then we do the next one. 2, enter, 4, enter, 6, enter, and 8, enter. Now what we do is we got to put the Y values, so 3, 28, 40, 27, 26. We need to plug that into our L2. So once again, I arrow now to the left, so press the left arrow, and I'm going to clear this list. So I'm going to do the up button all the way until I highlight L2, and I press the clear button. It's right here, right underneath the arrows. So I press clear, and then I press enter. So now I place the numbers, so I do 3, enter, 28, enter, 40, enter, 27, enter, and 26. You want to make sure that you have the same amount of numbers in your L1 as well as your L2. If you do not, you will get an error message. Okay, since we plugged this in, we're going to go back to our main screen. So you're going to press the blue button, which is second, and then mode. Now, to get our regression, we're going to go back to stat. So go ahead and press the stat key right here. And we're going to calculate. So we're going to go to the right and we're going to do calculate. Now what we're going to do is go to number 5, because what it says that means quadratic regression. And that's what we are wanting. So make sure you go to number 5 and we press enter. Now all you need to do is go ahead and make sure you highlight calculate. To do that, all you need to do is do a down arrow. Okay? And make sure when it says X list, it should say L1. And for your Y list, it should say L2. If it doesn't, come to me and I can fix that for you. Okay, now that calculate is being highlighted, we just press enter. And then here it gives us our quadratic regression. Now remember, we are writing our answer in standard form. Remember, that is the ax squared plus bx plus c. Now you notice it says a equals negative 1.375. So that's our a value, so we're going to plug that in for a. Our b value is 3.25. We'll plug that in. And then our c is 4.8. So we're going to go ahead and plug all of this into our standard form to write our quadratic regression. So here for our beginning, we have y. Always make sure you have y equals, because we are writing a function. And remember that our a value was negative 1.375. So we're going to write that down. So we have negative 1.375. Now, make sure you have x squared, because we are writing this in standard form. Now we write our b value, which was 13.25. So I do plus 13.25. Remember, we needed x there. And then our c value was 4.8. So then we do plus 4.8. And then this would be our quadratic regression. So this would be our final answer here. Now, for the second question, it says, use your model to find the height of the baseball after 9 seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 9 seconds and we're going to plug it every single time we see x. So basically, we are evaluating the function. We are trying to get our y value. Remember, y represents height. So now what we do is we have y equals, so we have negative 1.375, and then we do parentheses, we plug 9 in for x, and squared, plus 13.25 times 9, and then we have plus 4.8. Now remember, I got all of this because we already found our function. Okay, so all I did was plug in the number 9 every single time I saw x. So go ahead, I would just use a graph or use your calculator to plug this in. So I'm going to do that here. So we have negative 375, parentheses, make sure you use parentheses, 9 in the parentheses, squared. Then we had plus 13.25 times 9. Then I just added the 4.8. So I'm just basically plugging my function into the calculator. Press enter, and then you should get your answer. So this means that it says use your model to find the height of the baseball after 9 seconds. So after 9 seconds, the height of the baseball is 12.675. Now make sure you use labels, and because we're thinking of feet, we're going to put feet here. And so this would be our final answer here. Okay, now we have a second one. Now try this one on your own if you can with the graphing calculator. If you have questions, make sure you ask. Now remember, whenever you're watching this video, if you need to slow down, always make sure you pause the video. That always helps. Okay, make sure you pause this video and try this one on your own. Okay, hopefully you pause this video to see if you could do it. If you got stuck, well, now go ahead and watch this to see how to finish. So it says the drama club at your high school sells t-shirts at a fundraiser. The table shows data from the last 4 years for the price charged for a t-shirt, that's our X values, and the total revenue. Now revenue means like the amount they received, the total cost, earned from selling them, so that's the Y. We have to use a graphing calculator to find the best fitting model, in this case quadratic model, for the data. So we have our price charged, that's our X value, and the total revenue, that's our Y. Now we have to write our model, the best fitting model for this case. So to do that, we need to identify our list 1 and list 2. Remember, the top portion of your table is going to be L1, or really anything that is your X value, that's going to be your L1. And always your Y values, or the bottom half of your table, is going to be L2. Now, if this went vertically like this, right, if we had a table that went vertically like this, okay, L1 is usually going to be on the left-hand side, and then L2 is going to be on the right-hand side. So you might have some problems on your homework like that. Okay, let's go ahead, let's go use our graphing calculator to plug these values in. So remember, go back to Stat. Now we need to edit, so we press Enter. Now we need to plug in values for our L1, so I'm going to clear it, so I press Clear, Enter. And I'm going to plug in the values 8, 10, 12, and 14 into my graphing calculator. So I put 8, Enter, 10, Enter, 12, and 14. And don't forget to make it Enter. Now I'm going to go over to my second list and clear that. So I press, make sure you highlight L2, and then I clear it, Enter. Now for my L2 or list 2, I'm going to put 1,180, 1450, 1675, and 1550 in my list 2. So we have 1,080, 1,450, make sure you enter afterwards, 1,675, enter, and last one, 1,550. And we can see that we have 4 entries in our L1, 4 entries in our L2, so we're good to go. Go ahead and go back to the main screen, so second mode. Now we're going to press Stat again, and we're going to go over to Calc. Go ahead, down arrow, remember to number 5 because we want quadratic regression, and press Enter. Now make sure your X list is the L1, Y list, so that means Y values, L2. If not, make sure you tell me so that I can reset the calculator to make sure that that works. So down arrow all the way down to Calculate, make sure it's being highlighted, and press Enter. So here they've given us our A value, our B, and our C. So we're going to plug all these values back into our standard form. Okay, so writing this, we have Y equals. Make sure you do have Y equals, because if not, then it's really not a function. Okay, then our A value, we had as negative 24.6875. So go ahead and write that whole thing down. Now, sometimes they will tell you where to round. So make sure you just read the instructions carefully so you know where to round. So we have x squared. Okay, our B value is 609.875. So we do plus 608. Oops, that should be a 9. That's my mistake. There we go. So that should be 609 point, there we go, 875. And then our C value, which was negative 2,134.25. So we do minus 2,134.25. Okay. Now, for the second one, just like we did in the last problem, it says use your model, so what we have up here, to find the ideal price the drama club should sell t-shirts for. Okay, now this one's a little bit different from the last one, okay, because when they're asking us find the ideal price, what we're going to do here is we're going to use our vertex form to do so. Actually, I'm going to change this because I want to do the one just similar to what we did. So we're going to change this here. So we're still going to use the model. So kind of regard what I just said. So we're going to use the model, but to find the total revenue, to find, there we go. It's kind of hard to write this out. To find total revenue let's say when the price of the t-shirt is probably $19. And there you go. When t-shirts cost, let's go with $19. There you go. So I am changing, so make sure you change this on your notes. I am changing it. So we're going to use the model to find the total revenue when t-shirts are $19. So now this will be very similar to what we did in the other problem. That means $19, that's our X value. We are going to plug it in for every place we see X. So that means we have negative 24.6875. And we're going to multiply it by 19. And we're going to square that. Then plus 609.875 times 19. And then minus 2,134.25. So I would advise plugging this whole thing into your calculator so you can get your final revenue. So I have negative 24 point, and then I put 19 squared, then plus, and then multiply by 19 again, and then at the end minus, there we go. Okay, go ahead, press enter. There we go. So here, our total revenue is going to be about $541. And because we're doing money, we want to round. So we're going to round to 19 cents. Okay. So our answer here is going to be, make sure you use dollar sign to indicate how much money it is. So $541, and then it's going to be 19 cents. And that would be our final answer. Okay. Make sure if you have any questions that you ask, or you can come in before or after school to get some help. So your homework will be assignment number 28, and it's a worksheet. And so you'll have about, I believe, 5 or 6 problems, and it'll be basically what we just did here.